Hey guys, it's Tejas. I recently chatted with Veer Gupta on his podcast called Perspections. We spoke about my music, what I think of music, and some of my thoughts on the new album that I'm going to be releasing. It's quite a chill and fun chat, and I hope you listen to it and enjoy.
Perspectives. Life through perspectives and perceptions.
Hello and welcome to the Perspectives podcast. My name is Veer Gupta and I'm your host. This is a show where I just have fun and honest conversations with people who I think are fairly interesting and people who I really admire as well. You can also find the show on your preferred streaming service as well as YouTube. But today I have someone very interesting. I've enjoyed his music ever since 2014 when I first heard it on the radio. But apart from that, we dive into his new album that he's gearing up to release. We also go through some of his old stuff, which I really enjoy. And we also go through what indie music is and some of the misconceptions and some of the things that come along with it, which he really doesn't like. And I don't either. So yeah, without further ado, here's someone whose music certainly deserves your time and energy. He's also such a hidden gem in the music industry. In 2014, he released his EP Small Victories, and then in 2017, he followed it up with a crowdfunded album called Make It Happen. And now he's working on his next album called Outlast. He's someone who's definitely one of the biggest indie names in our country, and he is one of my favorite musicians. He's been one of my favorite musicians for years now, so it's sort of my honor to have him on my very own podcast. So here's podcaster, musician, singer, songwriter, producer, and everything else that he does. Here's Tejas Menon. Thank you so much for joining me, Tejas.
How's it going, Veer? Thank you so much for that very kind introduction. I am a hidden gem in this. I'm quite it. No, I'm kidding. No, I thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm just being silly.
No, but seriously, thank you so much for doing this. Let's just straight into it. I found you when I was like 14, 15 years old. Like I was listening to an English station, Radio Indigo over here, and they were playing your song Brave from your EP, 2014 EP, Small Victories. And I was just like, what is this? And there was even like a promo going on, like, hey, my name's Tejas, you're listening to my song Brave on Radio Indigo. And I was...
What, really?
Yeah.
I don't even remember this.
And I was like, what is this doing on radio? So then immediately I'm like, oh, so this is indie music. And then I discovered what indie music was in a way. Before I then went on to your YouTube, you had like 3-4 videos up. I'm still very fascinated though.
And now I have like 7 videos up, so really not much has changed. But you know what's so interesting? You're talking about the whole, I didn't know what indie music was. I mean, that's that revelation that you kind of get while you live exclusively in India, or at least a place which has not particularly been known for having like independent music. Because I had the exact same experience, but you had it when you were so young. You had it when you were like 14, as you just said. Like for me, I was listening to like commercial music, like pop music, because I didn't grow up here. I grew up in Dubai, and it's funny that you mentioned radio because like I was telling you even before this, I used to work in radio. And when we had the first NH7 weekender, and it was happening in Pune where I was, and very lucky obviously for me, we got wind of it, and Radio 1 was tied up to do the promotional stuff for Weekender. So I was just like, I don't know what a weekend is. I don't know what NH7 is. I'm just going to do my job. And the person I was speaking to was Nisa Mendez. She's now on Instagram as Good Slice. She's married to Vishvesh, who was, who's the lead singer of Scribe, or at least was. So, she was doing marketing at that point. She's like, okay, cool. So we're going to make you do interviews with all these artists to promote the festival. So I was like, cool. And they just gave me these names. I had heard of Indiscreet, but I didn't know. So they was like, okay, speak to Uday Benigal. You have to speak to this guy. You have to speak to Vishvesh. You're going to have to speak to Raghu Dikshit. So I ended up speaking to all these guys, not really knowing exactly what, I was getting into. And very similarly, like you, I went for the festival and I was just like, man, what is indie music? And then I just got like a face full of it. So that's how I got into it as well, man. So it's interesting how we don't know about it at all until we completely know about it. And what's different is like in other parts of the world, it's just like, it's not independent music. It's just music, it's like there, it's not from movies and stuff. So yeah, that is a very interesting thing about discovering independent music here in India.
Yeah, the term itself, indie music, like I don't think anyone really knew what it was until Spotify playlist came up with it. But because I started I hit that subscribe button so early on, I would get these general updates like, oh, he's put out a new song, and then I would still be amazed. But I never actually went onto your Wikipedia discography and sort of went through all that you had. And I never knew what like an EP was and things like that. I had no idea what that was. But suddenly when you released Lead this year, I was like,
I released on my mother's birthday, if I'm not mistaken, which is June. So yeah, we announced it a little earlier, and then then we released it in June. Yeah,
I have a really cool story about how I was listening to Lead. So I was staying over at my grandparents' house, and then I'm like, Tejas man, in notification, he's premiering a YouTube video. I'm like, oh, okay. So then it's like late. I think it was a 12 o'clock release or something, 12 a.m. or something.
Yeah, midnight, I think.
Yeah. So I was like, cool. I was awake, and I'm like, okay, let's see what's happening. So I went, and then the live chat is going on. Everyone's like, wow, this is a great song. And then I joined in at the last 20 seconds. So I didn't know what it was. Then I heard it back and I'm like, wow. But at 12:30, obviously you don't have any idea what a song is. So I hear it back a couple of times the next day and I'm just so excited because like then I saw that, oh, it's the first single from your new album and I'm like, wow.
Thank you. Thank you for listening. Wow, I mean, the concept of like premiering, and I'm putting this in air quotes, but just it's nice to have like people experience it with you for the first time when it goes public.
Yeah.
So it is nice. Yeah, it was a nice experience.
I don't know. I think you get that with an artist after a while that most of their songs it's theirs, and with you it's sort of that way as well. Like for Lead, just the lyrics. Show me where I draw to lead, because I never know to follow. I mean, there's so much in that line itself. Can you like take me through that line and what made you write something like that?
The long and boring answer is that it's part of an album, but it's the album is called Outlast, and Outlast itself has a bunch of different themes. This is one of those that fits in. But the song, in a very like kind of micro sense, I think Lead is basically echoing some of the lessons I've learned between say albums 2 and 3, about how most of my life has been me trying to kind of like, there's never been like a real path for me to follow, like somebody who's come before me. And not to say that there aren't other musicians out there who are going through the same thing, but for me it feels like just generally how I I struggle with identity. So essentially it is like kind of a song about kind of shaping my own identity. I've always had identity problems, and I think everyone does, just generally, because they're not convinced of who they are as a person until slightly more like a later age. But for me personally, it's an ongoing kind of thing, because I didn't grow up in India. For 18 years I was in Dubai, and Dubai itself is like such a strange place. Like it only kind of came together in about 1971, 1972, and my father went there in 1977. So it's really like been an awkward time for them also to kind of figure out what kind of place it is and find its own identity. And I was there as a brown kid growing up, so it was. And then they're like your own communities within Dubai itself. So I went to an Indian school, so I had a lot of Indian friends, but I don't have a lot of the Indianisms that a lot of people have when they grow up in India. And now I'm starting to pick them up. It's so weird, like it's bizarre. I'm not really from Kerala because I didn't really stay there. Neither did my parents, but I am Malayali. I, went for holidays to Hyderabad, but I'm not from Andhra Pradesh. I was born in Hyderabad, but again, I'm not really from there. I studied and, worked in Pune. So I feel a lot of connection to Pune. A lot of my family's there, but I'm not Maharashtrian. And I live in Bombay now again. And it's my kind of adoptive city. And it's like the only place I've really tried to make home. And, in a time where everybody's kind of moving back to their homes and their families and stuff, I'm trying my best to kind of stay here, because I really need this, not because I'm trying to prove a point to be able to pay rent in an already difficult economic time, but for me it's also like, if I leave this place also, it's just like it's another place that I haven't spent enough time in to feel like it is my home. So for me it's been a lot about identity, and the song Lead is just saying that there is no guidebook for me, and I have to just kind of make a path for myself and make my own handbook and then distribute it and see if people can find any semblance, like So lead is very much about place. It's about location. It's about identity. It's about my parents and how I'm trying to kind of rid myself of their bad habits, which are in my genes, trying to retain the good ones, trying to add to it, things like that. So lead is definitely about, just making my own path. Sorry, this is a very long-winded answer, but that's
this is
really
what
essentially what the song is.
No, I completely get that there's so much behind the song, and I love that there is such a long answer behind such a great song as well. But I think that there's so much to every song, and I think there's a lot that people can understand or sort of get from lead. It's not just those lyrics.
Okay, Veer, tell me this honestly though. So like when you listen to the song, what did you think? Yeah, I may have obviously affected your answers now because now you kind of know what it's about, but what did you think it was about? And like, you tell me.
I feel it sort of matches your answer to an extent. I mean, having no one to show you the way or where the light is, just generally about that. Even the line about finding your feet, do I have the lights to stand on my 2 feet?
Yeah, that second verse is like my favorite, I think. It's great.
It was like, I feel the more you listen to your music, and it's not with all musicians, definitely not. Like the more you listen to your music, the more you see that, there's a thread from this to that.
That's great. That's so nice to hear.
I was listening back to your album today, Made It Happen, which is crowdfunded, which I find insane, to be honest. And the fact that all the songs on the album are structured so very well in terms of how they're placed. It does what an album is supposed to do, which is take you on a journey. And you end with a track called Maybe We're Not Enough, which is, I think, one of the best ways to end an album. The song itself takes you on a journey, and it ends on a very slow and somber note, and it encapsulates the song's name, Maybe We're Not Enough. And I think Maybe We're Not Enough as a song is insane, especially the ending. Best way ever to end an album, great way as well to end a song. Did you do it purposely, like keep it as the last song, or what was it?
Yeah, thank you. No, it is absolutely deliberate that you say it. Now, it's really funny that you mentioned that last song. So Maybe Not Enough, obviously, the colors and everything that is there on the album, when you look at the album, it's like big, bright and positive, but it ends very somber. And there is definitely intent there because I wanted people to feel exactly like how I felt in my life, which is like basically keep it real, and like keep it vulnerable. And, that's a song that I end a lot of my sets with, especially the solo set. And we do that because I want people to go home with like, obviously they'll think about the show and they'll say that was a great fun time, but I also want them to go home a little shook, that's the predominant emotion in most people, right? Like this feeling of unease and stuff like that. We're not always happy. We seek happiness, man, constantly, but we're mostly that emotion, which is there at the end of that song. And that's kind of like what I wanted to do. And we had this option, to whether we wanted to end the album with Falling Out or Maybe We're Not Enough. Both were kind of like options, and we were thinking about it seriously. And Falling Out is not like by any means a happier song. It's also a pretty kind of like, it's a melancholic kind of track, but at least it ends like it sounds, which is like happy, and like it feels like there's some growth there, which definitely is the case. But then I don't know, I mean, I think I definitely needed to end with this song to kind of make it more impactful emotionally and to kind of leave people with something more resonant. And yeah, it's a very powerful song for me. It's difficult for me to perform it all the time. So it's like, I definitely wanted to end like that. It was a good choice, I think.
I like how you mentioned that you think that most people feel that way. Do you still feel that way right now, especially in the time we're in?
No, I wouldn't say that I'm like, somebody asks like, oh, are you happy, Tejas? I think it's like, first of all, it's like, how do you ask somebody that?
You can't give an answer to that.
Yeah, man, but it's happened, right? Like if people ask, and I give the answer saying that I am happy because I am blessed, I'm fortunate, I'm privileged in many ways, even though I struggle to pay my rent and all. It like my problems pale in comparison to what people are going through. And while I don't mean to trivialize what I have, and I need to pay attention to it, I would say that I am happy because I have a bunch of really good people in my life. But am I satisfied? No, I'm not satisfied. Creatively, ambition wise, financially, no, because I'm still kind of working towards something. And if you told me this is all I'm going to get in life, I wouldn't like spurn it at any point. I would be like, okay, cool. I did accomplish something and I don't feel badly about it. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I feel that that's a better answer than we usually get. Like people just say, fine. But I'd like to come to forget conversation. I know I'm going with like your big hits. No, I won't say use the word hits. I hate
Yeah,
that word.
no, it's fine. That's cool.
I
Thank
hate
you.
that word, but
I mean, that you're calling it a hit. That's great, man. Like I think it's a hit. Like it's a hit song. That has nothing to do with the amount of views or listens that it gets.
Yeah.
That's just my own opinion.
So I actually didn't hear Forget Conversation on Son of Abish, which is I think where it got big. And it's like a 2.5 minute banger. Like it's a great pop song. It's just so fun and just light and brilliant. Like I heard it on your YouTube channel and I was like, this is a great song. I honestly think it's like your best song yet.
Thank you so much. That's very nice.
Because so what I constantly do is that I play artist music to my friends. So someone says, oh, can you play me a song? The first song that I'd play is this one.
You're so right in doing that, by the way. And I'm sure you will not be surprised to know that it was very strategically chosen as the song that we released on Son of Abish, or and then decided to put out, right? Because
Yeah.
when you just think about it, it's 2.5 minutes long. It's a short song. It's catchy. It's got that hook, and there's some emotion there, and there's some, there's good vocals, drums, and obviously this is still the live version. There's a proper bop on the record, which is like it doesn't have drums or anything. It's just like a club kind of song, So yeah, you're right. I mean, I think it is a great gateway song, for people if they want to get into what I am capable of. But yeah, I appreciate that you like that song, and yeah, and I can see why a lot of people do, myself included, so yeah.
So it still feels very incomplete. Like when I heard it, I'm like, is that it? Because you hear the sort of like a smallish riff at the end. You're like, oh, there's more drumming. There's more drumming, and then you're like, oh, it's over. But I'm guessing that was because it was put on the show, and you had like maybe that was the intent.
Yes and no.
Okay.
I will say this. So the song was not supposed to be on the album. Nobody even knew about the song until October of last year, and most of the songs we're working on this album have been around for maybe a year, maybe some even more. And so this song was something I had just produced on my computer. It's a song that I wouldn't have taken to JJ and Adil just generally, but we were playing Weekender in Shillong last year, and we were doing this very special kind of set where it's pretty crazy set where it's on a track, like the whole set is on a track, and the moment we hit spacebar and it starts, it doesn't stop. There's no breaks. The entire show is on grid. And so we have to remember like a bunch of cues. There are transitions, there's between songs, there's like space left for me to speak, but there's like music happening in the background. So there's like a bunch of things going on so that we could hit the exact 40-minute mark, which is what they needed from us. So it's exactly 40 minutes in length. And so we were short by about 3 minutes in that set. And so I just suggested, I was like, hey man, I have this one song, which is really short and it could be fun. It could be a nice transition out of this song and goes into this song. So it's perfect that way. And they were like, cool. Nah, I don't know if you have the time to learn it and all that stuff. And I played it for them. And they were like, okay, cool, we have to do it. They really enjoyed it and they liked that it was so like, pop and chill. And, we played it at Weekender and literally everybody who had an Instagram story of us was for that song. So we were just like, okay, there's obviously something there. And, like people really enjoy that. And people kept asking, what song is this, man? We've never heard this song. I was like, yeah, it's unreleased, and Son of Abish thing happened. We were just like, cool, let's just do it. They need something less than 3.5 minutes. This is 2.5 minutes. And everybody who knows my music knows I love bridges. They know I love like complicated structures and things like that. So this felt like nice and refreshing that, it didn't need to really do much more than everything that I really want to say in the song is in verse 1, verse 2. And then the chorus just kind of re-emphasizes that. And then we had this nice kind of Phil Collins-y kind of outro with the drums and everything. But we didn't feel the necessity to kind of increase the length of the song. We were just like, man, chalo, one song doesn't have to be like, and the antithesis to that really now is the next song we're releasing is probably the most complicated and ambitious song we have ever done in my entire career. And I know, it's going to be one of those things which is going to be really divisive. Like people are going to either love it or absolutely go like, what the fuck is this? But you heard it here first. Anyway.
No, but you mentioned the bridges, man. Like that's something that I'm very intrigued by. Your 5-minute songs. I hold on. Sometimes I pause the sound and I'm like, wait, is this the same sound? What is happening? Because
Oh, you're gonna feel that way about this next one. I swear to
because
God.
it's only some people who can do
I
that
will
to you.
say
Yeah.
the Bridges thing, at least the kind of music that I grew up listening to when pop music was still even so a little more connected to like the 90s and the 80s, where you had to have like a bridge or like a hook or a refrain or something like that. There were more elements to the song, and for me that's the kind of music that I enjoy the most. Like that's the kind of stuff that I want to write. And it's like the inflex of the song. It's like what is a song trying to say? If the song is saying, I love A, then verse 1 is about why I love A, and verse B is about, there's another thing I love about A. But the bridge would be is like, oh, but what if I did not love A? Or what if I loved B? And then the chorus comes back to, no, actually, I just love A. So it's like most of my songs kind of are divided into like, maturity and innocence. The meat of the song is like reality. It's like, this is what the world we live in. And then the bridge usually feels like, oh, can you remember what it was like when we were kids? And, that innocent, that's why I like to write, where that bridge feels like an innocent, more like sweeter part of the song.
Moving on, I'd like to talk about something you said on the Akash Mehta podcast that you did with him. You mentioned that one of the songs on the album is something that's taken 10 years to make. Not taken, it's a 10-year project. And you saying that, I'm really quite excited because the number of layers you put into a song. What can you tell us about that sound?
I think this is probably my best like work I've done ever in my life creatively. It's so funny. The song is about like closure, or at least it did become about that. It was originally about somebody who I wanted to get over. It's not 10 years in the making because it's so epic or anything like that. That's the most important point, because the moment you say a song is like taken like an era of your life, basically, like to write, people are just like, oh my God, what is this Bohemian Rhapsody, Brian Wilson kind of song that I'm going to drop? And it's nothing like that. The song is a very simple song in terms of like structure. It's like a verse, a chorus, a verse, a chorus, and an outro. And that's it. There's literally nothing else to the song. But it was a song that was about somebody that I wasn't over. I had, major feelings for this person. It was a person that I dated. And I just couldn't let go of that idea. So it was tough for me to record it. Like just to put it down as an idea also. Like I had the bridge, written like a very long time ago. That's like probably like 9 years ago I had that ready. And then it was supposed to be on my first album, my like Small Victories. It was supposed to be on because my then manager and one of my best friends, Krish Makija, who shot a bunch of my things, including the Forget Conversation video. He loves the song and he thinks that he's like, this is your best song. You have to release it someday. And I was just like, yeah. He's like, come on, let's do it for Small Victories when we make this album. And I was like, cool. But I couldn't finish writing it. It just wouldn't come to me. And then I was like, I don't want to think about this right now. Then Make It Happen was happening. And I was just like, oh, cool. Maybe I can try writing it. But it didn't feel right. The words did not come to me. I don't know why. And then it just got delayed and I was like, you know what? I already have enough songs on this album and it's good. I can save it for later on. And then finally, when it came to this album last year, I maybe added one chord. I just added one extra chord to the entire thing. And then it just like immediately like just poured out of me. And it was done, man. Like in one sitting, I think I wrote both the verses that were missing for a really long time. And oddly enough, the song is about closure. It's about catharsis. And I wanted to close this chapter. So it's like, I have a bunch of other new issues that I will write about, at some point. But for now, it's that I wanted to close this chapter of my life, and kind of move on. And so all these songs are part of it, man. All these songs are part of that era. And I wanted to find some closure to it. So the song is about that. And the song is about closure and catharsis. And yeah, it's great. I think it's going to be a really good song. And I think we're making a music video for it. So excited.
No, but wait, you're 31 right now. So 10 years ago, 21. So it's a long time ago.
I wouldn't be surprised if it took even longer than that.
Does the person who you have written this about know? Or have they heard the song? Because it's a long time, so a lot could have happened.
No, unfortunately, I'm not in touch anymore with the person. And it's so funny because this is not the first song I'm writing for. In fact, that's the whole reason, right? Like I wrote my first song ever about this person. And then I kept writing songs about this person. And then I wanted to stop writing songs. So I was like, I'm going to do one more song, which is closure. Like I said, 10 years ago, which is what I wanted. I just want to end this. And I couldn't. And so now it feels I'm in a much better place. And so it's easy for me to put an end to it, put it to rest, basically. And yeah, so maybe I'll send it to her one day. I don't know. Let's see.
That'd be really funny, man. Like, going back and being like, oh, I have to go back in time and relive this memory to finish that song? What was that like?
It's a tough one, man. But you know what? It is evolved. The song is evolved. It's kind of about that one person, but it's also taken on a different meaning in my own life. It's just about closure, in your own life, and about like different people that you've met. And, in many ways, the song is about itself, like it feels right. It feels like complete, which is the most important part of it.
As long as that's there, man. Like, as long as you feel it's complete,
Yeah.
then I can't wait to hear it. Like,
Oh, yeah. It is.
no, but I honestly feel like there's so much in every song of yours. Like, there's so many layers, and then it's like a great series that has each episode and each plot line connected to a previous one, which I really find quite amazing in your albums and your songs as such.
Yeah, there are lots of Easter eggs and like hidden gems in my songs. I think like moments. Like I was telling this to somebody some other time where I was just like, I've seen a lot of musicians who have their names in their songs, be able to say that. But I was like, there's no good way for me to say Tejas in a song. But I've managed to sneak it. I have managed to sneak it into one of my songs, but I won't say which one.
Okay.
But people can go and search for
I'm going
it.
to go and
It's like
look.
part of a lyric.
After this, I also think that with you, if you go through all the songs that you've made, there's like a song for every mood, which is really quite amazing.
Yeah. I can say so much about this, Veer.
Yeah.
But definitely, yeah. I don't have too many fans, okay? But whoever is a fan is invested. And I really love that about anybody who kind of listens to my music, like the people who are on my Discord or whatever it is, like, so it's a very small but concentrated kind of base of people. And I'm very appreciative. In fact, I almost prefer it, like sometimes, because I wouldn't want people to kind of like just go like, oh, I love that some people think that a song is a bop and that's it, right? Like that's why we really forget conversation. People can go like, oh, this is just a great like bop to listen to. It's like just a song, and you're right, that just to answer your question of the fact that there is a type of song for every mood, I strongly believe in that, because a lot of the albums that I listened to growing up were like that, like in that case, it would be like, oh, this would have a string section. This would have like an electronic part, or this would be the ballad, or this would be a power ballad, this would be like the opening, like the banger song. Album that like really taught me that was this album called Hot Fuss by The Killers, and I bought that CD and I was listening to it on a flight for the first time. I had not heard them, and I just like heard the music video and I was like, oh, I want to sound like this, and I heard it. And the first track on that album is a song called Jenny Was a Friend of Mine. Man, I swear this song really taught me a lot about like how to structure an album, because like, I mean, the whole album is amazing. It's got like a different type of song every now and then. It's got, hits. It's got like Mr. Brightside. It's got Somebody Told Me. All the songs are different and in like style, but they're so good. But this song, I was listening to it, Jenny Was a Friend of Mine, as my flight was taking off. And it was like the best song. Like it blew my mind. It was so epic because it's a banger of an opener. Yeah. And like a really good album will have a killer opening. Now, of course, that doesn't apply to like songwriters. If they want, you can like Damien Rice will probably start with the saddest song or something like that. Like it's just like, but the kind of albums that I really enjoy, I definitely want to start it with like something really, really epic. Not just epic, but just like very interesting and great to listen to. So even the first single that we want to release was Lead, because it starts with these big horns and, it starts with, like this very John Williams-y kind of score. Kind of reminded me of Star Wars, and so I was just like, cool, that's the vibe I definitely want to start with. And yeah, it's that's why the previous album starts with Make It Happen. It's like a big pop song that kind of starts the album. But when we used to start the shows live, we used to start with You Want, and that has a killer opening as well,
right.
Like, so the show starts big, the album starts like in a big way, and then it closes out differently. There's Falling Out, which is a ballad. There's there's an acoustic song with Heather. So so many different kind of vibes there in the album itself. Yeah.
As we sort of close this out, like, I just wanted to bring this up from Small Victories, which was your 2014 EP, to Made It Happen, which was your album in 2017. You can sense like there's a big change. Like you can hear the change in your sound, right? There's like a progression. So how much of a change or like a progression is there from Made It Happen in 2017 to what's about to come?
This current album, yeah, there's a lot. There's a huge So I'll say the biggest difference is probably the tools are essentially the same. It's just that we have become better at knowing how to use it. And the tools have also become better. Like I have a better guitar now, or I have better pedals. Adil has better gear. JJ has a great studio we can work out of. And we have different software. We have different plugins. So I think biggest difference you will hear is that it's a lot more polished sounding. Because, honestly, even to close this out, everybody loves this whole indie scene and stuff. But I'm not a fan of like the indie. I like the spirit of being independent.
Definitely.
I like that. But I literally hate everything else about it, right? Like I hate the finances, I hate the lack of respect, I hate the lack of opportunity sometimes that, the independence. So I don't like those things or those associations. But what I want my music to sound like, I want it to sound like anything you'd hear anywhere in the world, right? Like I need it to sound as kadak and as rich and polished as literally any song you would listen to. And there's this thing my friend and I, Alok, we keep talking about this thing called GFI, which is good for India. I don't know if you've heard this kind of thing, right? Like where people go like, oh yeah, it's great for India, dude. It's for an Indian band, that's really good. And I'm just like, shut the fuck up. I hate that. I hate this. Oh, it's great for India. And then they'll make separate playlists with just indie artists in them. And that's fine. That's a type. But they won't make a playlist where you have just artists, man. Like, so it's just like, that's all we want, just to kind of be able to understand that. And if it does sound different, that's just the flavor of what we sound like when we make music. When Indians make music, this is what it sounds like right now, And yeah, there's a long way to go, and not everybody's good at it. In fact, I don't like a lot of the independent music here, just like I don't like a lot of the comedy here or the spoken word here. I don't think it's good enough. I don't think it's evolved enough. But the ones who are good, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, I think that only the spirit should be indie. Everything else we need to hold ourselves almost to an even higher standard, than people in advertising or Bollywood do, because we have to kind of just be taken seriously. So I think the difference in the last album and this album is probably going to be that the songs are a lot tighter, they're better produced, they're better mixed, better everything. So I respect it, and I just think that the progression has to keep going. This album is the most like concise piece of music I've made, and it's everything is a lot more dense. If you heard lead or if you watch the production breakdown, there's a lot going on over there. And what I like specifically about my music is that I don't have to make it difficult to listen to just to make it complex. Do you know what I mean? That's like
wow, that's
I don't want pop
amazing way
music
to put it. Yeah.
No, I don't like this idea that people are trying to not make it accessible just because they want to seem like, oh, I'm a complex musician. I think that's bullshit. Like, don't insult the intelligence of your audience, but at the same time, it's like the whole purpose of putting music out there is like the moment you do, you enter a transaction, you enter a transactional nature. And if you're putting music out there, you're putting it out there so that somebody can listen to it. And if you want them to listen to it, it's not a bad thing to make it accessible. So I like writing pop songs because I love pop music. That's just my thing. But I also know that a lot of people do love pop music. But the way I'm satisfied is if I dare say like a slightly more complicated, like not shameless kind of pop music, if I can call it that. It's got like ideas in it that I'm just speaking like a complete like arrogant ass right now, but it's, this is just my opinion. This is just my opinion on it. I don't want to come across like, but honestly, I also don't care now. I feel like I'm content with what I'm doing. And, I've seen the response from people, people like the stuff that we put out. So I'm happy, man, with that. Yeah, it's okay.
I know that we have to just cut this short right now, but I had like pages of notes for this, which we couldn't cover, and hopefully there'll be a part 2. But just to sort of close this out, can you tell us when the album might be out?
Oh, no. But I will say that there's more music coming out this year. So you will hear up to half the album, if not more, by the end of this year.
Okay.
That's fair enough.
That's enough to excite me.
Yeah.
And what about the 10-year sound? Is that coming anytime soon, or we have to wait for that?
I hope that comes out before the end of this year. Yeah, I hope so.
I really can't wait for the 10-year sound.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's a good song.
All right, but thank you so much for doing this, man. I really
Thanks a lot, Veer, man. Good luck with everything, dude. This is really awesome that you're doing this. I will say at a younger age, relatively. That's great. No, it's good, man. It's awesome. It's really good, and I wish you the best of luck.
All right, but thank
Most
you
trust.
so much for your time and energy, man. This
Thanks
is
a lot, Veer, man. I appreciate
really
it.
very
Thanks a
sweet
lot,
of
dude.
you, man.
Thanks for listening to my music, man. I really appreciate
Please
it.
don't. Please don't thank me. Well, and that's that. With that, we come to the end of this episode. And honestly, I really enjoyed that. You can find Tejas on Instagram at the rate Tejas1989. His latest single, The Bombay Doors, which is one of the most layered pieces of music I've ever heard, is currently out on every streaming platform as well as YouTube. You can also check out his music on YouTube and Spotify and every other streaming service. Everything's linked down below as well. Just search up Tejas and your ears will be treated to his magic. You can find me on Instagram at the rate _Gupta. You can find the podcast at perspections.podcast on Instagram. And the podcast is also available on your preferred streaming service, whether it's Anchor, Google Podcast, Spotify, or whatever it is, even YouTube. Make sure to please leave a like, a comment, a subscription, a follow, or whatever it is that just supports the podcast. But seriously, thank you for listening as well. It means a lot to me. I really can't wait for Tejas' new album Outlast, which is set to drop soon. But yes, until the next episode, goodbye.